AA Beyond Belief is a podcast by, for, and about people who have found a secular path to sobriety in Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, welcome to our Friday night sober distancing live stream. Today, Angela and I will be talking about platitudes, slogans, and common sayings heard in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. Are they useful? If so, which ones? And are any of them particularly harmful? Are any of them just downright mean? Are we coming up with any new slogans of our own in our secular AA meetings? Maybe they're coming up with some in some of these Zoom meetings. But before we begin, let's touch base with Angela at our satellite location in Boise, Idaho, and see how she's doing. Angela, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Very good on this Good Friday.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit beforehand. It's like, oh, Good Friday. I don't get it. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So, things are going great here, and I'm excited to talk about this.
Yeah, it's a good idea that you had. I didn't do much preparation, although I did make a list of sayings that I've heard over the years. And I kind of started with the ones that I heard really at my very first meeting and in my early days of sobriety. And I'll tell you the one that I heard that I didn't know that this is, like we were saying, I didn't know that other people had come up with this. I thought this lady who said it was the one who invented it. But she said, she told me, don't drink no matter what. Even if your ass falls off, just pick up your ass and take it to a meeting, she told me.
Yes. What a prophet, right?
I thought, wow, these people in AA, they're like Mark Twain or something.
Yeah, wise. Yeah, the one like that for me, it's along the similar lines. I heard a lot of the don't drink no matter what. Or that you don't have to drink again if you don't want to, and I heard that one quite a bit. But the way it was phrased that helped me was when somebody said that you don't have to drink anymore even if you want to. And for some reason that that stuck with me. That got me because there were times when I still wanted to, but just the idea that I didn't have to, gave me an option there. So I liked that one. One of them that I think is funny that we hear a lot, and you had it on your list on the Facebook group, was the take the cotton out of your ears and put it in your mouth, because that one's often combined, in the same meeting. Somebody will say something like that, and then somebody else will say newcomers are the most important people in the room. And you're like, what? Wait a minute. Yeah, and nobody blinks an eye. It's just, And it makes perfect sense to the people in the room.
And they usually say that. It's usually somebody says, yeah, when I came into AA as a newcomer, they told me to take the cotton out of my ears and put it in my mouth and sit and listen, blah, 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 blah. Like it's always someone talking like that, like this is what I was told. And I sometimes wonder, is that really true? But,
yeah.
I found that to be just the opposite for me. When I was new, I needed to talk.
Yeah.
And what's really ironic is, as someone who's been sober for a while, I need to listen.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And so we definitely don't say that in our meeting, and we've had business meetings where we've talked about some of the newer people hearing that in other meetings, and so we have somewhat try to be conscientious of that idea and make sure that the new people know that they're welcome to talk. And that's where we're able to be of best service, is when somebody's telling you how what's going on and the difficulties they're having. Then we're able to share, how we got through those, or point them in the direction of somebody we know who may have a similar experience and got through it sober and things like that. So, yeah.
It's like the people who tell them that, I think that they're good and they have good intentions. It's like someone told them that at one time, and so they think that it's wise and the right thing to say, I suppose. I don't know.
I don't know. I think with the cotton out of your ears thing is usually just, somebody being, either I've heard it where it's somebody newer has shared, or maybe they've shared it every single meeting, and then somebody is cranky and so says they basically think that they should listen rather than talk so much, and they might get something out of it, but it's still not necessary. I don't know that it's ever been said in a way that was, trying to be polite.
You're right. You're right.
So maybe they're trying to be helpful, but they don't care if it's polite or not.
No, you're
and
right.
So,
I think you're right, actually. And, there is that strange phenomenon that I haven't really witnessed for a long time of the cranky old timer. The group that I used to go to had a lot of those guys. They would really were cranky, and that's exactly the guy who would say something like that. Take the cotton out of your
right.
And yeah, I guess when I was newer, I would hear that, but I never really let it influence me, because I pretty much very early on I didn't say a whole lot anyway, but after a while I needed to say a few things, and but yeah. Yeah, I found that advice to be very, very wrong.
Right. Yeah. Another one you had, I think, on your list was thinking through the drink. And that one made me think of the, think, 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 which used to be like on bumper stickers. And, I saw it on posters in some, really a lot older meeting houses and stuff. But I never heard it in meetings. I don't think once and as a newcomer did I ever hear think, think, think. And so I went to, look up like what that's about, and found somebody who said that it originally was thought of like, think before you take the first drink, think where you have been, and then think where it will take you, which is basically what thinking through the drink is, just another way of saying that. So I learned that today, because I think it would have been helpful for me to hear more of the think stuff, because most of the time when I shared that that I'm atheist, which I did at every single meeting, I would get that I might be too smart for this program, and and that I'm I need to keep it simple and not make things complicated. It's like, well, if I'm trying to find something to help me manage my life, I want that to be a wise choice. Alcohol obviously wasn't a wise choice for me, so I don't want to make that mistake again.
Thinking was definitely discouraged at the first group I went to. And I actually have an interesting story I could relate about that think, think, think slogan. And what I was told is that they used to say, think, think, think before you drink, drink, drink. But at my old home group, we had these signs that must have been up there forever. And they were like tobacco stained, and the glass was broken, and they were just really just falling apart. And all of this, we had all of the slogans up there except for the one that said think, think, think. Okay. Well, this nice man that was going to our meetings, he was fairly new. He decided he's going to do something nice for the group, and he was going to buy brand new slogans and nice new frames and hanging them up on the wall. So he did that, and he surprised everybody, and he included the one slogan that the group did not have hanging on the wall, and that slogan was think, think, think. Oh my God. They just went crazy. They said, no, thinking is what my problem is. You can't think.
Right.
It was like, anyway, he was just devastated because he thought he was doing something nice. And these people were upset about the think, think, think. And they actually took it down from the wall. Not to think. What is wrong with that? Isn't that weird? The think, think, think really bothered them.
That makes me sad.
Yeah. People like to think that, well, it was like, there's something wrong with my thinking, I guess, is what they.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I was discussing, with you and Joe on Facebook was, because both of you had, what was it? My best thinking got me here. And I think that you guys think about it or understand it differently than I do, because when I've heard it in meetings, it's usually, somebody trying to emphasize that they need to let God take control of their life because, their best thinking got them there, as in that they can't think for themselves. Otherwise, they'll, drink and die and such. And so, yeah, so it's not one of my favorites, because of that.
No, no,
But,
it's not mine either. I was thinking that more like, for me, when I'd hear that, it used to confuse me as a newcomer because I thought, well, yeah, my best thinking did get me here. I mean, it was a good idea for me to stop drinking and go to AA. So I was
right.
always kind of confused by that whole thing that, my best thing, but I knew what they were trying to say. Like, it's just as you suggest, they were trying to say that I can't think. My bad thinking made me an alcoholic, and that's not the case, really. I
Right.
agree with you
Yeah.
on that. No, I
Yeah.
agree
Well, and
totally.
it's just interesting that, that it's the same phrase, but there's different ways to think about it or different perspectives. The other one that I find hilarious is the suit up and show up. And so for me, I heard that, from the beginning, suit up and show up. But the way I've heard it talked about, in my understanding was like, to when you do the steps, that you suit up and show up and you go to meetings and you be of service. And so it was kind of a get your shit together and go be of service type of a thing, and I think it was Joe that posted an article on that. No, it was like they'd actually get in a suit and show up to speak, and that that's what you were supposed to do, and that there are still meetings, my understanding right now, where if you're asked to speak, you're supposed to show up, dressed up in, either a suit or some sort of, I don't know, cocktail dress or whatever. And I'm like, really? I did not know that. I didn't know that they literally meant, suit up and then show up to speak.
I never
thought it
thought
was
of that.
more of a
It
call
makes total sense though. Yeah.
to
Cause that's
get
what we
into
used
the
to do.
program.
Yeah.
Yeah. Suit
Yeah.
up and show up and do the AA program. But no, they meant put on a suit
Yep.
and show up to a dinner.
Yep. If you ever look at the pictures from the 1950s, early 1960s of an AA meeting, a speaker meeting or something, you'll always see they're all dressed up.
Well,
Everybody's all
yeah,
dressed up
even like
nice.
PRASA, the Pacific Region AA Service Assembly. I went to that not the current year, but the year before, and for the big speaker meeting, they everybody at that table was all dressed up in suits and like sequin gowns and stuff. I thought it was a bit much, but I'm like, well, maybe these people don't go out much. I don't know. And yeah, and now after I learned that from Joe, it makes a lot more sense. I'm
Yeah,
like,
it
oh
does make
yeah, they're
sense.
just old school, and that's what you do. So anyway.
Johnny B in the chat room is making a comment about the thinking. He says thinking puts ownership on the individual and takes it away from the program. Old timers are threatened by anything that's not the program. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Well, and it also, depends. I hear the program definitely, but yeah, what the program is different in different areas, right? Because like if you're in the Pacific group, then the program is that you do whatever your sponsor says, you wear what your sponsor tells you to wear, you get a job where they tell you to, and you date who they want you to, you live with who they tell you to. And so that's the program for them, as well as steps and such. So these newer, I guess not newer, but books on the history of AA, I find really interesting, as far as, what the original program was and how much of it doesn't resemble what we do today, as far as like, the Lord's Prayer and chanting at the end of meetings. That was when I asked Joe about, like, do you know where the chant, holding hands, chanting at the end of the meeting, the keep coming back? Because when I was in Alateen, it was just keep coming back. And then I think it developed into keep coming back, it works. And then now I hear keep coming back, it works if you work it. And then I've even heard keep coming back, it works if you work it. So work it because you're worth it. I'm like, when is this going to end? And who started it? So yeah. He said that as far as he knew, that it came from the EPAWS, back when he was a part of that in Toronto and stuff. So yeah, those dang youngins.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. That makes sense. I remember that going on, gosh, when I was first fairly new to the program, I'm pretty sure, and there were some of the groups I went to that would do that. My home group did not do that. We weren't a hand-holding group, although they did pray. and they didn't do any of that chanting stuff. But other groups, the chanting stuff became more popular, I think, as time went on. And it got to be too where this is kind of off the subject a little bit, but people would like start chanting back at whoever was reading something. Like if you read like How It Works, then they would chant back at it. Yeah, that's kind of weird. That's kind of a new phenomenon, I think. But anyway. One thing I wrote down that I don't hear very much anymore, and I wonder if you ever hear it, is people used to talk about earth people, the earth people being the non-alcoholics, and that they're so different than us. Do you ever hear that talk anymore like that?
No.
Yeah, it was real common, like when I was really new, and so I was kind of being given this presentation that alcoholics are a different type of person. You know, that we react to life differently than other people. And they would usually talk about the earth people in kind of like a humorous way that, you know, that we are so different. It's like almost comical, you know, that you got these earth people and you have us. I don't hear that anymore, which is probably good, but I do still hear that sentiment that alcoholics are somehow a different type of person. Maybe I don't hear that as much as I used to.
I don't think they do earth people. I think it's how people, you know, refer to newbies, or not newbies, normies. You know, newbies is another term that we use, but normies is what I've heard the most.
You're right. That's kind of taken over the earth people thing.
Yeah, is that, you know, oh, that's a normie thing, or my partner's a normie, so he, you know, doesn't understand, you know, blah, 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 or, you know, whatever. And yeah, and what I've found is that, yes, my partner does not drink alcohol and has never been an, you know, alcoholic or addicted to anything as far as I know, but he is not normal.
Right,
so calling him a normie is not an appropriate term. So, but yeah, the longer that I've, you know, been sober, the more that I feel like, that, you know, we all have different coping mechanisms, and for those in the room, alcohol was ours for a while and it didn't work out. And so that's, you know, where we found ourselves in these rooms, but that other people use other things and have different coping skills, and not all of them are healthy as well. And not all of them, you know, have a support group or a 12-step group. So anyway, I don't believe in the existence of normies, I guess. I think that there are some people who can drink, you know, in moderation, but I still, you know, don't like the term because it implies that, you know, that there is an ideal normal, and that, you know, and I think everybody has problems. So.
Yeah, no, it is. And also you can also take it to the other extreme. I remember at my old home group, there was a poster about how, and again, this is kind of off topic too, but it was about how God selected, like, it was this big poem about how we're special people. The alcoholic is special, God chosen people. Have you ever seen this thing before?
Well, I'd agree that we're special people, but not in the same way.
No, it was like, like God chose the worst of the worst alcoholic to be his messenger, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I've heard people talk like that, but I don't think I've ever seen a poem or something dedicated to it.
Yeah,
but, you know, even with the, you know, pandemic going on, that, you know, I've gone back and forth with. Part of me says, yes, you know, I think that those of us that are in recovery, you know, have kind of a leg up, and that, you know, we've had to come to acceptance, you know, with another issue, even though we didn't want to. And so therefore, you know, this is another example of that. So maybe it's easier for us. But I don't know necessarily that I think that that's true either. You know, this is a difficult thing for everyone. But yeah, that's what it made me think of, was something along those lines. So,
and by the way, if anybody wants to call in, you can call at 844-899-8278, and I'll watch to see if there's any callers, and we'll take your call if you want to talk about any slogans, platitudes, or whatever that has either been helpful or unhelpful.
You like, or that have changed over the years, that was useful for you at first and maybe isn't now, or another one. Let's see, what was another one that I thought, I think I spoke when we were doing the steps on the never turn down an AA service request. or, something, that your sponsor asks you to do, things like that. And that one I had to do a resentment inventory thing on, because it went against what else, the other things I was learning, which was how to say no and set boundaries, because I'd say yes to a service, commitment, and then I'd resent whoever asked me to do it, or the, commitment itself, and all of that kind of stuff. And so my sponsor had to work with me on learning to say maybe, or let me think about it and get back to you, things like that. So that was one that, I don't care for. And it just seems, more cultish and bossy to me to, that you have to do whatever somebody asks you in AA to do.
Yeah. It really puts pressure on you,
being of service is important, and it's helped me, and continues to help me in my sobriety. But yeah, that one was one that I didn't care for that much.
I'll tell you one that I used to hear a lot at my old home group that I absolutely detest. I have always hated it. Stick with the winners.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I hate the idea that there's winners and losers.
Right.
It's just awful. Because the whole purpose of AA is like, if somebody needs some help, go over and talk to that person. He's not no one's a loser.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and because everybody has something to share, sometimes they're example of what to do, sometimes not what to do. But yeah, even there are people that, helped me in ways when I got sober, that are no longer in the rooms, that went out drinking again. And that, some of them went in and out, and probably wouldn't be the best example of a successful person in recovery per se. But that doesn't mean that they didn't help me. Sometimes, they said exactly what I needed to hear or was able to hear at the right time. That's another thing I found, is that sometimes people say something that, apparently has been said a million times, and, and I didn't hear it, and it's like the first time somebody said it to me, and and they may be that person. But I agree with you, the stick with the winners. I'm like, we're all in AA. So, does that mean I should go to church or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's that one.
Now there would be some, I guess, that were helpful. I put all these on a spreadsheet, and I figured there were 22% of them were useful for me, and 78% were not useful for me. So anyway, but some of the useful ones, I guess, I would say. Are
you sure it's not 22.3%?
Maybe it is. I would say, well, one day at a time is good for me, but HALT might have been good, I guess, to pay attention to.
Yeah, no, I still find HALT very, very helpful, because those are things that are still true to me, that when I'm, hungry, or, have any of those things that are bugging me, then I can't use my full capacity to respond appropriately to all situations.
Yeah. So. Well, we triggered a caller. Someone's calling in. Let's see who
all
this
right.
is.
I thought we'd have a lot of callers because everybody's got something they don't like in there.
Okay. Hello. How you doing?
Hi, guys. How are you?
Good.
I'm good. Thank you. My name is Mark.
Hi, Mark.
And I'm calling from New Haven. Hey, guys. How are you? I enjoy your podcast so much. I just wanted to call in and thank you both. And reach out a thank you to Ben, too. Some of those earlier podcasts with Ben with the steps and Angela with the steps have really been helpful to me. So, yeah, I really appreciate it. So I'm calling in from New Haven, Connecticut. I'm quite a distance from you guys. And I should say, I identify myself as a free thinker in the program. I do have some beliefs, but I'll tell you, I've gotten so much help from your podcast, and I get so frustrated with the dogmatic nature of a lot of the meetings that I found some great relief listening to these things starting a few years back. And so when I heard the call-in option, I really wanted to just say thanks, really. John, I'll just really quickly tell you a really quick story. I've been dealing with type 1 diabetes for 45 years, and several years back, I decided to acquire a medical alert service dog to assist me with it. And the establishment I went through was located in Concordia, Kansas. So after a 2-year wait period, my wife and we had to go out there. I had to go out there for a week of training. That was part of the stipulation. So we decided to make a road trip of it. We haven't seen that part of the country. And, I stopped my first night in Hershey, Pennsylvania with a fella I went to rehab with. And my second night was in Indianapolis with my cousin. And we saw the St. Louis Arch. And found myself the third night in Kansas City, Missouri. And it happened to be a Saturday night. And I knew your home group meeting was the next morning. And we didn't have too long of a ride. So I actually went to I was actually able to attend your home group meeting.
Did you go to the Sunday meeting at KU Med? The Sunday meeting at KU Med?
It was at a medical facility, and the room. It was near a cafeteria.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think I remember because I wasn't there, and someone said that that
you weren't there.
Yeah,
but I want to say his name was Greg.
Yeah, I think so.
Say Greg, does that sound right?
Because he goes to that meeting all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
But, he was the chairperson. Yeah, and I love that meeting too.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Great. Yeah,
that meeting's turned out really well.
Unfortunately, we don't have it.
Sorry,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I would attend some around my parts here, but there are a couple in Connecticut, but they're an hour and a half one way for me, and it's kind of a long drive on a Tuesday night. But I'm in the city a lot. I'm right on the train line into New York City. I'm only 60 miles from Manhattan. And I'm down there for meetings a lot in Greenwich Village, but the agnostic meetings are usually at night, and I'm usually down there during the day. So just hasn't worked out. But I was at your home group meeting, and that's my claim to fame with you. And I'm sorry I missed you. It would have been cool.
Oh, I am too.
But it's good to be there.
That group, that's interesting. That meeting because we have our group has. A meeting. Okay, so we have like 5 meetings a week. We have one that meets in Kansas and the others are in Missouri. I don't know of any other group that has that where we're in 2 different states like that. But that meeting in
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that meeting in the KU Med Center in the Kansas side, that's become a really interesting meeting because a lot of the people that go to that meeting don't go to any of the others. And it's almost like we could spin that off into its own group, but we're all just one big family, and there are a lot of people that go to that meeting that do go to the others too. But it's been fun to watch how that's evolved over time. Anyway, I'm so glad to hear from you.
It was pretty well attended. That was October of 17. So it was about 2.5 years ago, and it was pretty well attended.
It is, yeah. It still is. I think that it will often get about 15 people. Now, unfortunately, right now it's closed down. All of our meetings are temporarily closed down because of the pandemic.
Same here.
Of course. Yeah.
Yep. So we're doing all kinds of Zoom meetings. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I sure hope that when it ends, it comes back again. But yes, thank you for calling and thank you for all the nice things you said. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was nice.
That was nice. Yeah. One of the people that I know here who's religious, but a dear friend, she sent me a text and wanted to know how I was going to, all of these different meetings, because I mentioned that, I was in Australia and, New Jersey and Jacksonville and things like that. And, and I told her that it was heathenslivelonger.net, that we have a list of all of these Zoom meetings. She didn't think it was as funny as I did.
I'm glad you just said that because someone was actually asking about that in the chat room. I think it was who was it? She wanted to know where there's a list of meetings, and that's where it is. Yeah. What's the name of it again? No,
I'm kidding, John.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
It's a joke.
Well, that's a question I get all the time. It's like, is there a list of these meetings? And it's like the Secular A website, but what's happened is there's so many different groups have these meetings that they're not necessarily listed like in one big place,
Right. Yeah. There's a couple of them. There's one that has, just all kinds of meetings, mostly traditional. And then there is one, usually Joe has a copy of it, but it's been on the AA Believe Facebook group. So if you're in there and you kind of scroll through, maybe one of these times I'll point it out to you and you can pin it or something like that. And then people can find it easier.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we do have a Facebook group. If you wanted to join that, it's a private group. So you can be in there and, you can post whatever you want to there and nobody will know that you're posting in an AA group or whatever. And there are a lot of the Zoom meetings listed in that group. People are just posting like, my group meets in this time or that time or whatever. So yeah, that's a good way of doing it.
Yeah. So I noticed in the chat that that Gail had wrote that one of the things helpful to her was when our sponsor said, "I don't drink no matter what," and and I think that one is a useful one too, particularly early on when you haven't developed tools yet, and yet you're trying not to drink, and you're still having feelings, and you're still super reactionary to anything and everything that happens, and you feel like you're so raw. I don't drink no matter what is simple, and it makes sense for that. So I like that one.
Yeah, and that actually helped me too. It's almost kind of ironic that okay, my problem is I can't stop drinking, and the solution is to stop drinking, is to not drink. Mm-hmm. You just don't pick up the first drink, and this sounds very simple, but it's not easy. And when they tell you just don't drink no matter what, they're letting you know, I know it's not easy, but just hang in there. It's going to get better over time.
Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah. A little more empathy in that statement.
Now, there was also some advice I was given early on, and I've come to the conclusion, I don't know how I feel about it, but it was, there's two pieces of advice. One is don't make any changes during your first year, which is almost impossible because nothing but change happens in your first year. And then the second one is don't get into a relationship during your first year.
Right.
Oh boy.
Right. Yeah. Well, in a way that usually people are being helpful or trying to be helpful with that, because I know from my experience that was a big one that I heard when I came in. My sponsor never, gave me any sort of suggestions like that. But what she pointed out was that after doing the steps, I might think differently about, and find, things would be different, and that might be one of those things. And it was true. So like in my early, recovery of first, few months or so, there was somebody in the rooms who was a nice guy, and he had, 3 or 4 years of sobriety, and he seemed to really like me. And I was like, wow, somebody who, has that much sobriety is interested in me, and I feel so special. And at some point I don't know if he was pressured by other people, and he really was a nice guy, and he really is, and if he got pressured, but, he's like, well, you're still new. So if, you get a year of sobriety, we're both single, I'd like to take you out. And to me, that was like the most romantic thing ever, that he cared about my sobriety. But, now I kind of think of it as that he put me on layaway. Oh. And as it turned out, after I had finished the steps and got a little bit of sobriety, it was true that, even though that this is a nice person and, was still sober and all of that, I was just not interested in the same thing. I was a different person. And so then I, found other things more attractive, different things attractive than I found when I was in, early recovery. So I think it's, I wouldn't share it in a meeting, but when people ask me about it, that's what I share with them, is that, I found that after I did some work and stuff, that, the people I'm attracted to change, and it continues to, as I continue to stay sober.
Well, I think that's a good way to handle it, and that's pretty much, I would never tell somebody that, I don't think. I did have someone tell me that, but for me, it really wasn't hard anyway. I just said I was okay. I felt so bad about myself. I couldn't imagine dating anybody. But I wouldn't now. First of all, I know there's no way you're going to stop anybody. So I'm not going to go off and tell somebody not to do something like that. But if they were asking for my advice or experience or whatever, then I might say, maybe it might be better to wait. It kind of
Right.
But I've known a lot of people too that have gotten into relationships early in their sobriety and ended up getting married and lived happily ever after. So you just
right.
you never know.
You don't know on that. So, but yeah, that was like the only person though for me that was interested in me in early sobriety. So I didn't really have to worry about it either, because I intimidated a lot of the guys in the room, and from what I'm told, still do sometimes. But I was just very blunt, and in early sobriety, I was mean. I was a lot meaner. I don't know that I was rude. I was just very upfront that telling me the doorknob can be my higher power is just really stupid and insulting, and all of that. And so, yeah, I get reminded of that once in a while, usually on my birthday when I share at some of the meetings that I attended early on, because I did there's another one, the 90 meetings in 90 days thing. So I went to tons of meetings because I didn't have a life anymore. And so what else was I going to do? So I went to lots of different meetings, 2 or 3 a day sometimes. And yeah, I forgot where I was going with that. The 90 meetings in 90 days. Oh yeah, just that there's been a lot of people that are still sober that watched me get sober and comment on the ways that I have changed. And usually the top comment is that I'm not as mean.
Oh.
So yeah, so that's sweet, but it ultimately helped me, because then I didn't have to worry about dating and early recovery, because most of the guys would not come near me.
Well, people used to comment to me, they'd say, you never smiled and all that. But you know what? I didn't, because I felt so crappy. I mean, I really had a hard damn time. I was not a happy camper. I didn't have a lot to smile about when I was, it took a little while for me to kind of get things squared away. It really took me a couple of years. Jackie was writing.
Well, that's really interesting that for you, because women get that all the time, both in and out of the rooms, that we're supposed to be smiling and stuff, and
I hate
you
that.
should smile. And so that's kind of refreshing to hear that they were pressuring you as well.
Yeah,
so.
I hate that. I used to get it as a kid too. They say, "Oh, you're such a serious young man," and smile and all this. I hate that. And sometimes they'd say it, and I'm really happy. I'm happy. I'm feeling fine, and someone tells me I need to smile. Yeah, I hate that. But anyway, Jackie was writing. She said that, first of all, she thought that the whole advice about don't get in a relationship is kind of controlling. And then she said that she did date somebody who had, she dated a guy with 7 years when she had 30 days, and it didn't work out, but it wasn't anything that caused her to drink or anything like that. So
yeah, well, and also I think I just read it too, that it's what kept her coming back for a while. And I have heard of that too, of people who came in to the program, chasing somebody else, or, came in because they thought they might have a problem, and then, was attracted to somebody else, and so kept coming because of that. So yeah, all of those things happen. And then there are some times when you go into a room and there's somebody there that you do not like, and so you don't come back, so all of the above with that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this one. This is actually what was brought up last week when we were talking. That's your disease talking.
Oh yeah,
which is just a way of putting somebody in their place, basically.
Right. Yeah. The stop thinking about it and just do what you're told, and that I think we shared last week goes along with your disease is in the corner doing push-ups, and that, for some people, maybe that helps them stay, in line or something like that, or not get complacent or something. But for me, it just, it's not helpful. I don't like to think of it because, I guess the disease model is a little different in my brain. But I really think that, that my alcoholism or my alcohol misuse thing was a solution that my brain came up with to try to help me, and ultimately it wasn't helpful to me. But the part of my brain that was pushing that didn't know that. They thought they were being helpful, and so that's how it goes. And to think of it as an enemy, I don't feel that that's very integrative. At least for me, it hasn't been conducive to my sobriety and doesn't, help me feel like a complete, human being if I'm fighting with different parts of myself.
What do you think of the one they used to say, pour me a drink?
Yeah, I have heard that one. The idea of, if you feel sorry for yourself or wallow in self-pity or things like that. And, I don't know. Again, I think it's not a very nice saying. I mean, it does, the point they're trying to make is that, when we're going through tough stuff and, we, sit in it, and that goes into, a whole nother line of, don't sit in your own shit, things like that. But the idea is that, when we're dealing with stuff, it's important for us to talk about it or talk to a counselor or do something rather than continue to form a resentment or rehash it in our brains, because those are the things that can trigger us to feel the need to change the way we feel with a substance. So,
I used to sometimes get confused too about when am I engaging in self-pity and when am I just, thinking about, what something I don't like or reaching out to somebody about, how I feel about something, I just had a sponsor that often would talk about self-pity and self-centeredness and made me think about that all the time. And it confused me often that I thought, well, should I even bring this up? Is that selfish of me to bring this up? Should I not be thinking about this? I don't know. I guess I turned out okay in the end, but it was kind of a confusing time.
No, I definitely get that. And my understanding has changed over time with that as well. And I think we've talked about this before of that, I highly regard myself with a capital S. And so, if I'm talking about ways that I'm behaving that are not the way I want to, I usually say that, ego or something like that in order to change that, because I, myself is something that I'm trying to get in touch with, that I'm trying to reconnect with. And so, using terms like selfish and self-seeking and self-pity and things like that, I don't find useful. And I don't know that many people do, but it's one of the ways that we talk in AA. And it probably stems from, the beginnings of it being, a bunch of white, well-to-do guys that needed a little bit of leveling in order to stay sober. But for the majority of us, both men and women, we don't need that kind of leveling. We need to get in touch with reality, definitely. And sometimes, working on those things is what gets us in touch with reality. But I don't know that that calling myself selfish every time I have a thought or a feeling that is, oftentimes it's a fear or reaction or that lizard part of my brain that is, freaking out about something. And I can't control that part of my brain. All I can control is my reaction to it. And so beating myself up is not helpful with that.
And somebody wrote about, and this is one I heard, I think at my first meeting as well, that one drink is too much and 1,000 is never not enough. That's what Rachel Kelly wrote. And that one, I think when I heard that, it was like, yeah, I can relate to that. I could relate to that. And so, yeah, it was a nice, simple way of kind of putting across a point, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I get that. And it does, help me stay aware of that's my condition, I guess, or that that I never wanted one drink. I wanted to stop feeling, and one drink never was able to accomplish that, and so I needed to do other things or more drinks or whatever. So yeah. I have that same reaction to, I don't know, chocolate. So there are certain things that still goes that way. That my partner, who does well with moderation, found out, a while ago that he was on the border of pre-diabetes. So he wasn't pre-diabetic, but he was on the border of being pre-diabetic. So I guess it's pre-diabetic. And so he started moderating. And what he does is he has like this tiny little cup that's kind of like a shot glass, but, shaped differently. And he'll put like root beer and then a tiny, spoon of ice cream and make a mini root beer float. And have that in my mind, that's basically like with a drink, or, I'm like, what is the point? I do not want a shot glass of a root beer float.
It's kind of interesting,
yeah. And it works for him. He just wants a taste of it and he's good to go. And he's been able to, change all of his blood work. So he's fine now. But to me, it was just interesting that he was able to do, things in moderation that I'm still not able to do in moderation. Or I guess I could do it, but I'd be unhappy, which was, similar to when I tried to control my drinking, is that, I wasn't happy if I just had one, because that doesn't change the way I feel. So
what do you think about this idea that some are sicker than others? I've heard that said a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe it's true. I don't know. Who cares? I don't know what context I've heard that, but I have heard that, in meetings, that some are sicker than others.
I think it's usually used in reference to somebody who is still not behaving well in the program, so if it's
kind of
like
a judgmental thing.
Yeah. And, and sometimes it's warranted in some ways. I mean, we do have predators in the program. And so oftentimes, I'll hear it in reference to somebody who is, going after young women with new sobriety and or it can be, somebody who's taken over a meeting doing the leading deacon thing and scaring people away because they're saying you have to get God or die and stuff. So, that's someone that, I'm sure I've heard said is, some are sicker than others. So it's kind of a way of both identifying that we're still all in this fellowship together, but that not all of us get well. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. Well, there's still time if anybody wants to call in. We've only had one caller tonight. But,
I know. I was surprised. I really thought that people would want to call in and share, the platitudes and the sayings that, that bug them. And then, any that they feel strongly are really helpful. So
but a lot of people in the chat room, that's really cool to see. There's still 20 people in there, a lot of people making comments. I love to see that. It's kind of like having a meeting. I liked what you said. It's like having a meeting, but we're the only two that keep repeating ourselves and telling the same old story over and over.
We're the two old people in there who tell the same old stories. Yeah, that's what it is.
That is funny. I back in my old home group, there, we'd have these old geezers that would do that. They tell the same old story over and over, and people would roll their eyes. I said, "Well, you just wait. That'll be us someday."
Right. Yeah.
I do.
Well, and I think also the thing about this is that that people know they have the option to call. So to me, it's a little bit more like when you're in a meeting and you go to the meeting to get something out of it, but you don't necessarily share, and you have the option to share if you want to, but here you really don't, because we can't call on you. You have to call us.
It's really kind of cool. I mean, it's fun that people, they can kind of talk to each other in the chat room. They can listen to the podcast. They can call us if they want to. It's just kind of a nice little, it's like an AA meeting / party in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think somebody was mentioning something about being advised to continue to have a high fluid intake because your body's used to it. I've never heard that, but I know in that Getting Sober book that they talk about sugar, that, having hard candy and stuff like that. And I took that to heart and really, it's like, I have to have sugar. My body's used to a high amount of sugar because of alcohol.
Yeah.
So that was one. Oh, yay.
Cool.
Oh,
here we go. Hello.
Hi, this is Kathy. I'm from Missouri.
Oh, hey, Kathy. How you doing? This is John. I'm from Missouri, too.
I know. And I visited the meeting one time, and it's just because I work 5 days a week, and that Saturday, and I don't want to drive up to the city in the night. But on Saturday morning I went, and it's a 45-minute drive and a 45-minute drive back, and after working all week, So anyway, then I found the Sober She Devils. I found everything through your podcast,
cool.
And it's just been wonderful. It
awesome.
just changed my life, and so yeah.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
I did, yeah, and so I've always been on the outside, but did traditional AA because I didn't have anything else. So the one thing that did always help me was take what you need and leave the rest. And because I couldn't take all that stuff they were saying, it's like, and I needed to be sober. I wanted, and I needed to stay sober. And so it's like, okay, well, that's what I'm going to do then. I'm going to take what I need and leave the rest.
Oh, I'm so glad that you brought that one up. Yeah, because we don't hear it in where I got sober. That one's not shared very often at all. I've heard that it's shared in Al-Anon here more, but it's not usually shared in the rooms because there's quite a few meetings where, you have to do things, buy the book and stuff like that. But yeah, I love take what you want and leave the rest. And I think that's super helpful, particularly for people who are free thinkers, atheists, or agnostics, or just, feel on the out in some way, is that, you don't have to listen to everything and take every advice or every suggestion in there, use what's helpful. So I'm glad you brought that one up.
Yep. That's the way it should be.
Yeah. And I did. Yeah. And it's what I held on to, it's like, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Someone told me one time, take what I need and leave the rest. And that's what I'm doing. And then I want to tell you one I don't like, and it is, keep it simple, stupid. And I do believe in keeping it simple, but I don't like the idea of calling myself or anyone else stupid. So I don't know if you've ever heard that one or not.
I have.
But,
Yeah.
But I would say keep it simple, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's So if I thought I needed to use that slogan at all, that's what I would do. But I just never. That just turns me off.
Definitely. Yeah.
So thank you all so
thank
much.
You, Kathy.
And again, 20 years practically traditional A, almost 20 years in traditional, and just one day it was like, you know what, I just have to be true to myself. I can't go back. And I got online and I just started typing in free thinkers or what secular or something, and there you were.
How about that?
Thank you for being here.
Oh, great. Oh, it's so nice to hear from you.
All righty.
You take care now.
Yes.
Be well.
Nice to call. Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 Oh, that was nice.
Yeah, you've changed recovery for a lot of people, John.
Well, boy,
we're all grateful.
Well,
at least most of the time.
What an amazing experience it's been. And, when I think back about it, it was finding AA Agnostica. It was going to that convention, that conference in Santa Monica, all these people that I've met online. I never, ever dreamed I would be doing a podcast, and I wouldn't have it had it not been for meeting, all these people from all these places, so what a wonderful deal this has been. And I love to hear comments like that from people, especially someone right here from Missouri, because I know Missouri can be a difficult place sometimes.
Yes. Anyway. Yes, it can.
Well, anything else that we should cover before we call it a night?
I don't know. Somebody mentioned that doing the steps, or it's only a suggestion, but that it's not a suggestion. So when people say, that it's only suggestion, then they're like, but a major suggestion.
Yeah. They say it's like opening up your parachute as a suggestion, they say, right? And
right.
Yeah. That's not right. It's kind of funny. It's over the years. A lot of AA groups have just gotten more and more and more rigid. Because I know that was my experience when my first group I went to, they were so nice. laid back. It was like, yeah, you just, you do what you need to do, kind of, it was really, they were really nice and gentle. But then over the years, maybe it was just because I changed, I went to this other group. It was like more rigid about, no, don't read Living Sober, read the big book. That's the only book that you ever need to read, and you got to do all this stuff. So. Right.
Yeah. From my understanding, and I haven't studied it a lot though, there's a good paper that, I believe the UK's Minority Opinion wrote several years ago on the Synanon cult and how that influenced AA, as well as recovery culture and the way that it was adopted for institutions and prisons and things like that. So it's a really long read with the citations within it, because I think it's APA. And so it took me a while to read through, but it is interesting because it does go back to how, some of these things got put into place that really aren't a part of the AA program, but, we've just gotten used to them. And so many of us think that they are, like, saying the Lord's Prayer at the end, or any of the chanting, or that you have to do the steps, the boot camp type of things that exist. Apparently, quite a few of them stem from that. And so, if someone's interested in that, you might check it out. I found it interesting and still need to probably read it over a couple more times to understand it better.
Yeah, I should go back over there. Are there two different Minority Report sites? Is there like one in the UK and one in the US? Because I went to one where I think it was a Minority Report, and they were talking about that Synanon cult thing, and they brought up, it's like some kind of a plot, and it mentioned William White was in there. It even mentioned AA Beyond Belief and AA Agnostica. It's like, wow. Yeah, I thought it was kind of weird.
That must be a newer one, because I don't think the copy I got. Because
I'm not involved in any plot, and I don't even know what Synanon is, but I will learn about it.
Yeah.
So, but there's I know that there is a different, there's the AA Cult Watch. And there's different cult watch sites too, because I once referenced the wrong cult site. I think there's a British cult site, which is the cult site you want to go to, I guess.
If you're gonna go to a cult site, go to that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Not a cult.
Right.
Cult, Yeah.
This was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So thank you everybody for your comments and for listening and for all your support. And thank you, Angela, for joining me once again on this Friday night.
Thank you for having me.
It's so much fun.
Right.
So,
and if you guys have any ideas of what you'd like us to talk about next week, be sure to email us. Otherwise, we'll keep coming up with things like this. So.
Yeah, please do. I'll tell you, it's something I've been thinking about doing. I don't know how this would work, but I was thinking about contacting Bob Kay and asking if he would come on and give like some kind of a presentation about AA history, some subject on AA history we could talk about.
That'd be great. I actually referenced his book for this, but wasn't finding what I was looking for. So, so I thought about that. I'm like, we should contact him and see how that works.
That'd be a good idea. I think I'll do that. And maybe people would want to call in and talk to him. He's a good guy. He's a lot of fun.
I hear he's kind of shy though. So
he is shy.
Just kidding. Okay, cool. That sounds like a fun one.
I'm pressing all the right buttons today. I can't believe it.
Woohoo! It's a good Friday for you.
Yeah, it's a good Friday. Good Friday. Easter Bunny comes Sunday, I guess. Okay. So thanks again, everybody, for listening to this episode of AA Beyond Belief, the podcast. We'll be back again next Friday with another episode of Sober Distancing and whatever topic we're going to come up with. Maybe we'll have Bob on. Who knows? And also, I do have some other podcast episodes I need to post, and I apologize for not getting to them. I've been a little bit busy, I guess, or just, I don't know, distracted. But once again, thank you all. It's just a pleasure and an honor to do this. Take care, everyone.